They thought I'd never find out. They thought age had made me blind, deaf, and stupid. But I heard every word that night. Every single word. I'm Marcus Holloway, 68 years old, retired aerospace engineer, widower for 5 years now. My daughter Jessica is my whole world. Or at least, I thought she was. Until I came home early from what was supposed to be a relaxing 7-day cruise with my old college buddies and walked into a conversation that shattered everything I believed about my family. Let me back up. 3 weeks ago, my friend Raymond called me up. Marcus, come on this cruise with us. You've been cooped up in that condo since Linda passed. You need to get out, see the ocean, remember what living feels like. I hesitated. I'm not much of a cruise person. But Raymond was right. I'd been rattling around my beachfront condo in Manhattan Beach like a ghost. The place felt too big, too quiet, too full of memories. So I agreed. 7 days. Alaska cruise, glaciers, wildlife, fresh air. I made it exactly 2.5 days before I got violently seasick. The ship's doctor gave me pills that made me sleep for 18 hours straight, and when I woke up, I knew I couldn't take 5 more days of this. I told Raymond I was catching a flight from the next port. He understood. Take care of yourself, Mark. Call me when you get home. I didn't tell Jessica I was coming back early. Why would I? She was busy with her marketing job, her husband Brad, their life. I figured I'd just show up, surprise her maybe, have dinner together. She'd been distant lately, always stressed about something, always on her phone. I thought maybe we could reconnect. The flight from Juneau to LAX was exhausting. I got home around 9 p.m. on a Wednesday. The lights were on in my condo. I could see them from the parking garage. That was odd. Jessica had her own place in Culver City. She shouldn't be here. I took the elevator up to the penthouse, my key already in my hand. As I unlocked the door, I heard voices, multiple voices, and one of them was definitely not my daughter. I stepped inside quietly. The voices were coming from the dining room, my dining room, the one with the hand-carved table Linda and I bought in Italy 20 years ago. I stayed in the hallway, hidden by the wall, and I listened. So if we can get Marcus to sign this power of attorney, an unfamiliar male voice said, we can move forward with the sale. The market's hot right now. This unit should fetch at least $2.5 million, maybe more with the ocean view and recent renovations. My blood went cold. Sale? What sale? And he'll sign it? That was Brad's voice. My son-in-law. The startup founder who'd been revolutionizing the food delivery space for the past 3 years with absolutely nothing to show for it. He will if we present it right, Jessica said. My daughter, my little girl. Dad's been really forgetful lately. Last month he asked me twice in one day if I'd picked up his prescription, and he keeps mixing up names. Yesterday he called me Linda. I gripped my suitcase handle so hard my knuckles went white. I had called her Linda once, because she was standing in the same spot her mother used to stand when she made coffee, and the light hit her hair the same way. And for just a split second, grief and memory overlapped. It happens when you lose your wife of 40 years. But forgetful? I wasn't forgetful. I was sharp as ever. Hell, I just finished a 2,000-piece jigsaw puzzle last week and consulted on an aerospace design problem for a former colleague. The thing is, a woman's voice chimed in, crisp and authoritative. We need to move quickly. If Marcus is showing signs of diminished capacity, this is actually the perfect time. Once it progresses further, any documents he signs could be challenged. But right now, we're in a sweet spot. Who's the woman? Brad's mother. I recognized her voice now. Patricia. Always wore too much perfume and looked at my condo like a shark eyeing a seal. Our family attorney, Patricia said. Deborah's handled all our estate matters for years. She knows exactly how to structure this. And you're sure this is legal? Jessica asked. She sounded uncertain. Good. At least there was some hesitation in her voice. Completely legal, Deborah assured her. If your father is experiencing cognitive decline, the responsible thing is to let family step in and manage his assets before he makes poor decisions. Seniors lose billions every year to scams and bad investments. You're protecting him. Protecting me. Right. What about the pension fund? Brad asked. Can we access that too? My pension. $1.2 million. The reward for 42 years of designing aircraft systems. I'd been planning to use it to set up a scholarship at my old university. Linda and I had talked about it before she got sick. The pension's trickier, Deborah said. But once we have power of attorney, we can restructure things. Move it into a joint account for easier management. Then, if necessary, funds are needed for his care or living expenses. There's flexibility. His care expenses are minimal, Patricia said. Marcus is healthy as a horse. This is about Brad's situation. The investors are threatening to sue. We need $800,000 by the end of the month, or Brad loses everything. $800,000. So that's what this was about. Brad's failed startup had finally imploded, and they were planning to carve up my life savings to save his ass. Mom, keep your voice down, Brad hissed. Well, it's true, Patricia said. We've already put in $200,000 ourselves. We can't afford any more. Marcus has been living in this expensive condo all alone, doing nothing with his money. He doesn't need a 3-bedroom penthouse with ocean views. We could move him somewhere smaller, more manageable, and use the difference to solve our problems. He loves this place, Jessica said quietly. Mom, and he picked it out together. Your mother's gone, sweetheart, Patricia said in that syrupy voice I'd always hated. Marcus is living in the past. He needs to face reality. And frankly, so do you and Brad. This is your inheritance we're talking about. Would you rather it all go to some random charity when he dies? Or would you rather secure your future now while you can actually enjoy it? Inheritance. They were talking about my death like it was a pending transaction. I should have walked in right then, confronted them, thrown them all out. But I didn't, because I'm an engineer. And engineers don't react emotionally to problems. They gather data, they analyze, they find the optimal solution. So I stood there in my own hallway, in my own home, and I listened to my daughter and her husband and his parents plan how to take everything I'd worked for my entire life. When do we do this? Brad asked. This weekend, Deborah said. I'll come by Saturday afternoon. Marcus will sign the power of attorney. We'll tell him it's just updated emergency paperwork. Then Monday, we list the condo. In this market, we'll have offers within a week. Close in 30 days. That gives us time to handle Brad's investor situation and still have a comfortable cushion left over. What do we tell Dad about selling the condo? Jessica asked. We tell him we found him a lovely senior living community, Patricia said brightly. Ocean view, activities, people his own age. We frame it as an upgrade. By the time he realizes what's happening, it'll be done. My hands were shaking, actually shaking. I'm not a violent man, never have been. But standing there, listening to them discuss dismantling my life like I was already dead, something dark and cold settled in my chest. They thought I was powerless. They thought I was just a confused old man they could manipulate. They were wrong. I quietly rolled my suitcase back to the elevator, went down to the parking garage, sat in my car for 20 minutes, breathing, thinking, planning. Then I drove to a hotel, checked in, turned off my phone, and I started making calls. The first call was to Robert Chen. Robert had been my estate attorney for 30 years. He'd helped Linda and me set up our trust, our wills, everything. He'd held Linda's hand at the funeral. He was more than my lawyer. He was my friend. Marcus? Robert's voice was surprised when he answered at 10 p.m. Everything okay? Robert, I need to see you first thing tomorrow morning, and I need you to pull my complete estate file. Everything. What's going on? I'll explain tomorrow. But Robert, this is urgent, and I need complete confidentiality. Don't tell anyone I called you. Not your secretary, not anyone. There was a pause. Then, I'll clear my morning. 8 a.m., I'll be there. The second call was to Dr. Sarah Kim, my primary care physician. Dr. Kim, this is Marcus Holloway. I know it's late, but I need an emergency cognitive function evaluation, full battery of tests, and I need it documented and notarized. Marcus, has something happened? Are you experiencing symptoms? No, but someone's about to claim that I am, and I need medical proof that I'm completely sound of mind. She was quiet for a moment. Then, come in tomorrow at noon. I'll run every test we have. The third call was to my former colleague, James Patterson. James had retired from aerospace 3 years before I did, but he'd gone into consulting. More importantly, he had connections to private investigators. James, I need someone who can dig into financial records. Someone discreet. Someone good. How soon? Yesterday. I'll text you a number in 5 minutes. He did. By midnight, I'd hired a private investigator named Monica Reeves, who specialized in financial fraud. I gave her Brad's name, his startup company, everything I knew. I'll have a preliminary report by Friday, Monica said. If there's financial mismanagement or fraud, I'll find it. Then I sat in that hotel room and I did what I do best. I planned. Linda used to joke that I couldn't make a sandwich without a blueprint. She was right. I approached every problem systematically. Identify variables, calculate outcomes, optimize solutions. This problem was complex. Multiple actors, emotional variables, legal constraints. But it had a solution. I just had to find it. By 3 a.m., I had my strategy. I went through my estate documents that Robert had sent to my encrypted email. Everything Linda and I had set up. And there it was, buried in the trust document on page 47. Something Linda and I had insisted on after watching her father's estate get torn apart by greedy relatives. The diminished capacity protection clause. Robert had drafted it specifically to prevent exactly what Jessica and Brad were attempting. The clause stated that if any beneficiary attempted to claim diminished capacity on the part of the grantor in order to access trust assets, all benefits to that beneficiary would be immediately and permanently revoked. The assets would instead transfer to designated charities. Linda and I had put it in as a safeguard. We never thought we'd actually need it. But here we are. The clause required 3 things to trigger: documented evidence of the claim, medical certification that the grantor was actually of sound mind, and formal declaration from the grantor that the protection clause should be invoked. I could get all 3. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in that hotel room, going through every detail, every possible outcome. Because this wasn't just about money. This was about my daughter. My only child, the little girl I'd taught to ride a bike, walked down the aisle, held when her mother died. Was I really going to do this? Was I really going to cut her out of everything? I stared at a photo on my phone. Jessica, at 8 years old, gap-toothed smile, sitting on my shoulders at Disneyland. She'd been so happy that day, so innocent. Where had that little girl gone? But then I remembered her voice in my dining room, cold, calculated. Dad's been really forgetful lately, lying about me, setting me up, planning to take my home, my independence, my dignity. That wasn't my little girl anymore. That was a stranger who saw me as an obstacle, a resource to be liquidated. The decision crystallized, hard, clear, irreversible. By Thursday morning, I was in Robert's office. "Tell me everything," he said. I did. Every word I'd overheard. Robert's face got darker with every sentence. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "Marcus, what they're planning is elder financial abuse. It's a felony in California. You could press charges." "I don't want my daughter in prison, Robert." "Then what do you want?" "I want to trigger the protection clause. I want to teach her a lesson she'll never forget. And I want to make sure this never happens to me or anyone else again." Robert pulled out the trust document, read through the clause, looked up at me. "You're sure about this? Once we invoke it, it's permanent. Jessica and Brad will get nothing. Everything goes to the charities you and Linda designated." "I'm sure. But Robert, I want to add something. A provision. A way back." His eyebrows raised. "If Jessica completes 2,000 hours of volunteer work at a homeless shelter or elder care facility within 2 years and submits quarterly reports showing genuine engagement and growth, then she can petition to have a small portion reinstated. Not the full amount, but enough to show her I'm not completely closed off to redemption." Robert smiled. Linda would have liked that. Linda would have done the same thing. We spent the next 3 hours documenting everything. Robert took notes, drafted declarations, prepared the formal invocation documents. At noon, I went to Dr. Kim's office. She ran me through every cognitive test in her arsenal, Memory tests, reasoning tests, pattern recognition, executive function, clock drawing, 3-word recall. I scored in the 95th percentile for my age group. Marcus, your cognitive function is excellent, Dr. Kim said. Better than most people 20 years younger. I'll have the notarized documentation ready by end of day. Thank you, Sarah. Marcus, I have to ask, what's really going on? I told her. Not everything, but enough. Her face hardened. I see this too often, she said quietly. Adult children who convince themselves their parents are failing so they can justify taking over. It's abuse, Marcus. I'm glad you're fighting back. By Friday afternoon, Monica called me. Mr. Holloway, I have that report, and you're going to want to sit down for this. I was already sitting. Go ahead. Brad's startup, Fresh Dash, has been insolvent for 8 months. He's been paying operating expenses with investor funds, which is fraud. He's got $780,000 in debts, not $800,000. But here's the interesting part. His parents, Patricia and Gregory, loaned him $200,000 last year. They took a second mortgage on their house to do it. So they're in financial trouble too. Desperate financial trouble. They're 3 months behind on that mortgage. If Brad doesn't pay them back, they could lose their house. Suddenly, it all made sense. This wasn't just greed. This was desperation. Brad and his parents were drowning, and they decided to use me as a life raft. There's more, Monica said. I found text messages between Brad and Jessica. Brad's been pressuring her for months, telling her you're too old to manage your own money, showing her articles about elder dementia, basically grooming her to believe you're incompetent. My stomach twisted. Can you send me those messages? Already in your email. Mr. Holloway, this is textbook financial manipulation. You have grounds for a restraining order if you want one. I want the evidence preserved, notarized, if possible. I may need it. Consider it done. That evening, I finally turned my phone back on. 17 missed calls from Jessica, 12 voicemails, dozens of texts. Dad, where are you? Dad, I'm worried. Please call me. Dad, your friend Raymond said you left the cruise early. Are you okay? Dad, please. I'm scared. Just let me know you're safe. I almost called her back. Almost. But then I remembered her voice. Dad's been really forgetful lately. I texted back. I'm fine. Needed some time alone. We'll be in touch soon. Her response came immediately. Where are you staying? I'll come get you. I'm okay, honey. Just need a few days. Love you. I turned the phone off again. Saturday came. According to the plan I'd overheard, they were supposed to come to my condo that afternoon with the attorney, to get me to sign papers. I wanted to be there, but not the way they expected. At 2 p.m., I sat in my car in the parking garage, waiting. At 2:15, I saw Jessica's car pull in. Then Brad's truck. Then an unfamiliar Mercedes. The attorney, probably. I waited 10 more minutes. Let them get upstairs. Let them start to wonder where I was. Then I took the elevator up. I could hear them before I even opened the door. Voices, concerned. Where is he? Patricia's voice. I don't know. Jessica sounded genuinely worried. He texted me last night but won't tell me where he is. Maybe he's at a friend's house? Brad suggested. Marcus doesn't really have close friends nearby, Jessica said. They all moved away or passed. Thanks for that reminder, sweetheart. I unlocked the door and walked in. They all turned. 4 faces. Jessica, Brad, Patricia, and a blonde woman in an expensive suit who had to be Deborah the attorney. Dad! Jessica rushed forward. Oh my God, where have you been? I've been so worried. She tried to hug me. I stepped back. I've been taking care of some things, I said calmly. What things? Dad, you look exhausted. Have you been sleeping, eating? I'm fine, Jessica. Mr. Holloway. The blonde woman stepped forward, hand extended. I'm Deborah Morrison. I'm the Chen family's attorney. It's wonderful to finally meet you. I didn't shake her hand. I know who you are. Her smile faltered slightly. Dad, we were hoping to talk to you about some important matters, Brad said. Why don't we all sit down? What kind of important matters? Well, with Mom gone and you living alone in this big place, we thought it might be time to look at some practical arrangements. You know, To make sure you're taken care of. Taken care of, I repeated. Interesting phrase. Mr. Holloway, Deborah interjected smoothly. What your family is suggesting is quite common for people in your situation. A simple power of attorney arrangement allows your loved ones to help manage things if you ever need assistance. It's really just a safety net. A safety net, I said. And would this safety net happen to include selling my home? Dead silence. Jessica's face went pale. Dad, Would it include accessing my pension fund? Moving my assets around? Maybe to help with, say, some bad investment decisions? Brad's face flushed red. Patricia's mouth opened and closed like a fish. How did you, Jessica, started? I came home Wednesday night, I said quietly. I came home early from my cruise because I was seasick, and I stood in that hallway and heard every word you said. Jessica's hand went to her mouth. Oh God. Dad. You what? You didn't mean it? You were just exploring options? You were protecting me? My voice stayed level, calm. Engineering precision. Which lie would you like me to believe, Jessica? Mr. Holloway, I think there's been a misunderstanding, Deborah began. The only misunderstanding, I cut her off, is yours. You misunderstood who you're dealing with. You thought I was a confused old man you could manipulate. You were wrong. I pulled an envelope from my jacket. This is a notarized medical evaluation from Dr. Sarah Kim, conducted Thursday. Full cognitive battery. I scored in the 95th percentile. I'm not forgetful. I'm not incompetent. I'm not suffering from diminished capacity. I pulled out a second envelope. This is a complete financial investigation into Brad's company, Fresh Dash. Turns out, Brad's not just a bad businessman. He's been committing fraud, using investor money to pay operating expenses. And Patricia, I know about your second mortgage, the one you took out to give him $200,000, the one you're about to default on. Patricia actually gasped. I pulled out a third envelope. And this is the text message history between Brad and Jessica, where Brad systematically convinced her I was losing my faculties. Psychological manipulation, elder abuse preparation, all documented. Jessica was crying now. Actually crying. Dad, I'm so sorry. I didn't, Brad said. You were forgetting things, and I believed him, and I was so stressed about money, and you decided your stress was more important than my dignity, I finished. You decided that lying about me, stealing from me, taking my home was acceptable if it solved your problems. We weren't going to steal, Brad started. Shut up, Brad, I said. I'd never spoken to him like that before. His mouth snapped closed. I turned back to Jessica. Your mother and I set up our estate very carefully. We had a specific clause written into the trust. It's called a diminished capacity protection clause. Do you know what it does? She shook her head, tears streaming. It automatically disinherits any beneficiary who attempts to claim diminished capacity on the grantor in order to access assets. It was designed specifically to prevent what you tried to do to me. Dad, please. As of this morning, that clause has been formally invoked. You and Brad are no longer beneficiaries of my trust. Everything goes to the charities your mother and I designated. The Alzheimer's Association, the Linda Holloway Scholarship Fund, the Aerospace Museum, organizations that actually help people instead of preying on them. Jessica collapsed into a chair. Dad, no, please. I made a mistake. I'm so sorry. Please don't do this. And here's the thing. Seeing her like that, broken and crying, part of me wanted to give in. Part of me wanted to be the dad who fixed everything, who forgave everything. But I couldn't, because this wasn't about money. It was about something deeper. You didn't make a mistake, Jessica, I said quietly. You made a series of choices. You chose to believe Brad's manipulation instead of trusting your own father. You chose to meet with an attorney behind my back. You chose to plan selling my home without even talking to me. Those weren't mistakes. Those were choices that showed me exactly how you see me. As an obstacle, an asset, not as a person. That's not true. I love you. Do you? Because Wednesday night, I heard you tell your in-laws that I don't need this expensive condo, that I'm living in the past, that I should face reality. You talked about my death like you were waiting for a clearance sale. Patricia stood up. Marcus, you're being completely unreasonable. We were trying to help you. Get out of my house. Excuse me? Get out of my house. You have 60 seconds before I call security. You can't just, Brad started. I can. This is my home. My name on the deed. And you're trespassing. Deborah, the attorney, actually had the sense to look embarrassed. She gathered her briefcase. I think we should go. Patricia sputtered, but Deborah steered her toward the door. Brad followed, his face red with rage or shame or both. Jessica didn't move. She sat in that chair, sobbing. I waited until the others were gone. Then I sat down across from her. Dad, she whispered, please, I'll do anything. I'll pay you back. I'll leave Brad. There is one thing, I said. She looked up, hope in her eyes. I've added a provision to the trust. If you complete 2,000 hours of volunteer work at an elder care facility or homeless shelter within the next 2 years, and submit quarterly reports showing genuine engagement and understanding of what you've done, you can petition to have a small portion reinstated. 5%. 5% of everything? That's all. And only if you do the work. Real work. Not just showing up for hours. Actually learning. Actually understanding what it means to be vulnerable. To be dismissed. To be treated like you don't matter. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, what if I don't? Then you get nothing. And we're done. Dad, that's not fair. Fair? My voice went hard. You want to talk about fair? You tried to put me in a home, Jessica. You were going to sell the place your mother and I built our life in. You were going to take everything I worked for and use it to bail out your husband's failed business. Don't talk to me about fair. She flinched like I'd hit her. I stood up. You have a choice. Spend the next 2 years learning what it means to care about people who can't benefit you, or don't. But either way, this is over. The old Marcus, the one who would have just forgiven and forgotten, he died Wednesday night in that hallway. You killed him when you chose greed over love. I walked to the door, opened it. You need to go now. She stood slowly, wiping her eyes. At the door, she paused. I really am sorry, she whispered. I know you are. You're sorry you got caught. That's not the same as being sorry for what you did. She left. I closed the door behind her and stood there in my empty condo. The place Linda and I had loved. The place I'd almost lost. My phone rang. Robert. Marcus. I heard from Deborah Morrison's office. They're not going to fight the trust invocation. She knows they don't have a case. Good. How are you holding up? I don't know yet. Ask me in a year. Linda would be proud of you. Would she? I just cut our daughter out of our estate. You gave her a path back. That's more than a lot of people would do. And Marcus? You didn't cut her out. She cut herself out when she made those choices. You just held up a mirror. Maybe he was right. That was 6 months ago. I still live in my condo. Still wake up every morning to the sound of waves. Still feel Linda's absence like a physical ache. Jessica started her volunteer work 3 months ago. She sends me reports every month. They're getting better. Less defensive. More thoughtful. She's working at a memory care facility, helping people with Alzheimer's. Last week, she wrote, Dad, I met a woman today who reminded me of Grandma. Her daughter never visits. She cried when I read to her. I finally understand what you meant about being invisible. I'm so sorry it took this for me to see it. I cried when I read that. Actually cried. I don't know if we'll ever be okay again. I don't know if I'll ever trust her the way I used to. But she's trying. That's something. Brad and Jessica got divorced 4 months ago. He filed for bankruptcy. Patricia and Gregory lost their house. Last I heard, Brad's working in sales somewhere. I don't feel sorry for them. Sometimes people ask me if I regret what I did, if I wish I'd handled it differently. The answer is no. Because here's what I learned. Respect isn't something you're owed just because you're someone's parent. Trust isn't automatic. Love, real love, means protecting yourself when the people who claim to love you try to hurt you. I'm 68 years old. I'm not powerless. I'm not finished. I'm not a resource to be managed or an obstacle to be removed. I'm a man who spent 42 years designing systems that keep aircraft in the sky. I'm a man who loved his wife with everything he had. I'm a man who will always leave room for redemption, but will never again be anyone's victim. They thought I was weak. They were wrong. And every morning when I wake up in my home, the home I fought for, I'm reminded that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is refuse to be diminished by the people who should know better. I'm Marcus Holloway, and I'm just getting started.